We are alive and we're early or right on time, I think, which is exciting because if anybody knows me, they know that I tend to be like 5 minutes late to everything. So that's just my MO. So if you are watching this on the replay or you, for some reason, are watching this on YouTube, let me introduce myself. And I spelt my business name wrong in my description. So I definitely need to introduce myself.
Oh my goodness.
I'm Emily Aborn. I'm the leader and founder of She Built This, not She Boot This. So don't count that mispronunciation as the actual name of the business. And She Built This is a women's entrepreneurship community where we bring in all of these ideas and inspirations and insights from each other as fellow women entrepreneurs and connect on like our group think and our group wisdom. And so today, that's exactly what we're doing. And we're chatting with Leanne Knight of Authentic Vision Media. And we're going to be talking all about communicating with consistency in our brands and in our businesses. And real quick, Leanne, before we get started, I just have to show everyone this cool t-shirt that Jamie Chapman told me about. And everybody everybody that knows about my freelance writing brand knows that it's like all about dandelions. And I use this whole like wind analogy. So I am like true to today's message with communicating with consistency.
Yeah.
All right. So now, without further ado, I would love for you to tell us like who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm Leanne Knight from Authentic Vision Media, and I am a graphic designer for thought leaders. My come on, computer, don't beep now. I know that all of you out there have a really important message to share and that your words will change someone's life. So what I do is I make sure that your marketing visuals are tailored to your message and your goals so that you can communicate your message with clarity and impact.
Perfect. Perfectly said. And we're very aligned because I love helping people get their message into written word and then take that message and put it into graphics. So I think that's perfect alignment. I would love, okay, just a note to people commenting. So I think the purple heart would probably be Jamie if I had to guess, or Terry. They both use, actually, I think Terry uses a green heart. No, I think she uses purple. But so make sure if you are commenting, you put your name just so we can see who you are, and feel free to pop in questions at any time. I'll be monitoring the chat and read questions as we get them and as we get time to answer them. But let's dive into the questions that I have for you to start, Leanne. So I want to know, like, how do you help people figure out what their message is? Like, how do you help them figure out what that unique value proposition that only they bring to the table is? Because there's a lot of people that do exactly what a lot of us all do.
Yeah. So one of the first things, I kind of just get a feel for the person's business and how they started it. And that already gives me insight because I feel like everyone has this like unique and lovely story about how they started their business and why. And then then I ask, what are the things that they want people to know about? So this is what we go into on my design and messaging audit. I ask them some questions about their business, how do they get it started? And then I start to ask questions like, what are the things you find yourself repeating to your clients, the things that you wish that everybody knew, the things that you feel like are your platform. And this kind of starts to dig into really what makes their business different. So I'm like stumbling now because I'm thinking of all the examples of people that I've talked to and how this like, I want this live to be name dropping all the people that I've audited because we've come up with some really great stuff.
You can feel free to give examples. And like one I love to give is like, I love to ask my clients like, or my podcast guests, like, what's your unpopular opinion? Like, what do you believe that is maybe unpopular or a little edgy? So like, that's one way to go about it, but let's hear some more examples.
Yeah, absolutely. So what comes to mind really easily is Angela Hall. talking to her about like why she started her business. And once you start talking to her, you start to learn about like her son and her husband and her past, like the jobs that they had before and how she got out of that and started her interior design business, and how she, wanted to make sure her household was set up not just beautifully, but in a way that was really functional. And especially, with any children, I don't think she has pets, but like maybe she does, I don't know. But like her clients have children and pets, and she's like, you can have a beautiful home even with kids and pets. And so when we talked together, we kind of like dug through, and I know like you probably worked through this with her too. Like we kind of got to the bottom of it, and she's like, I want people to know, like, that phrase, this is why we can't have nice things. She's like, I want people to know you can have nice things and that you can have a beautiful home, that you don't have to be embarrassed to have people over because, of the chaos of having, kids and pets and stuff like that. And that just became so apparent in like asking her, like, what is she trying to tell people and why she started her business? And I feel like that always comes back to something really personal. It comes back to like why the person started their business in the first place really ties to what their core message is today.
Mm-hmm. All right. So once you've kind of identified the core message, like how do you translate that into graphics? You know what I mean? and like just visual, like how do you translate that into visual consistency?
Yeah. So a couple of things. A lot of the clients that come to me already have their branding. So they've worked with somebody to uncover like, how do they, and I ask them these questions too, but like, how do they want to be seen by their clients or their audience? What, and like questions, like the kind of branding questions people ask, like what kind of shoe is your brand kind of thing? Like to see, like, are you super approachable and accessible and playful, or are you want to be more high end, exclusive, refined? And those, like, we kind of start with those kinds of conversations. And then that usually informs what their branding looks like, their colors, fonts, and things like that. So that's like the one part. And then what I'm looking at on the audit and just in my clients in general is, are they using that all the time? So there's kind of two parts of it. And that's why it's called a design and messaging audit, because I'm looking at, do you have brand colors and fonts and all of that? Are you using it in every post pretty much? Like sometimes, Instagram is great for photos, and I'm not here to say you should always only post graphics and not photos. But when you're posting graphics, are your colors apparent? Are you using the same colors all the time? I see so many Instagram accounts that someone uses a different color every time.
Okay. And just to like, if that's you, there's no judgment. Like when I first discovered Canva, and I'm sure this happened to you too, like it's just so fun to play on there. You're like, I can create all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that everything was supposed to look this
way. Yeah. I did the same thing. And you also tweak, like when you're starting out, like you tweak things, like you do stuff. This is how I operate. Like I do stuff one way for a little while, and then I like make a change, and then like do stuff that way for a while, and then I change. And that's really like, that's a good thing. I'm refining. Like I'm not just theoretically scattered all over the place. I'm really just like homing in on what is hopefully more clear. Yeah. So yeah, we look at that kind of stuff, like the colors and branding. Are you using it consistently? And then also the messaging part of it. So like for Angela, if it's, we can have nice things, or you don't have to be embarrassed to have company over. Like, if those are her like core messages and she's worked with you on that wording and she's like happy with how it sounds, like she should be saying that on social media all the time. And I think that we get really self-conscious because we're like, I literally just said this, and we're like, everyone knows that's what I do, right? But so many times people even come to me and they're like, oh, I didn't know that you did that. Like, because we forget to repeat it. So I think that's part of this communication clarity, is just repeating the same thing a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because so that's something I always say, and I need to hear it too, because I always think, oh, everybody knows who I am, or everybody knows what I do. But the fact is, first of all, we get new followers, like there are new people to our audience, and like we want to bring them through that experience also of getting to know us. So there's that to consider. And when it comes down to like, worrying about, oh, well, I shared it on Instagram, so I can't share it in my email, or I can't share it here and here and here. Like, people are not watching you in all the places. And if they are, like, that's amazing. And you need to ask for their dollars. But chances are people are not following you in all the places. And so like you feeling like you're on repeat, it's not on repeat.
Yeah. And this is also like my hot take. I've like maybe argued with people, not really argued with people about this, but like post the same thing in all the places. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this makes sense for Instagram and it doesn't make sense for LinkedIn, or vice versa. Or like it has to be tailored to how that platform operates. But mostly I'm like, just post the same thing in all the places. Like, it's better for them to see the same thing twice. If we know that it takes a few times for a potential client or customer it takes a few times of them seeing what you're offering to decide to buy, like, why not just post the same thing in all the places?
Yeah. And if you want to, like, I like to use it as like a little experimental playground. So sometimes I'll try different things in different places and see like which one was better. You know what I mean? So that's another option too. But I agree. Like, we really saying the same thing, saying it in different ways. You can do it so many times and people are not going to get sick of it. So, and the people that get sick of it are not your people. So, there you go.
That's right.
All right. So what do you feel like is a step that we could take today to kind of help us get a little bit of clarity if we are trying to figure out what that like big message is? Like, what would you say to somebody who's like, well, I don't know what my core message is. So how can you sort of sit down and figure out what that might be?
Yeah. Well, one, I would go back to that kind of question that I posed earlier that I asked people, but I'm going to say it more clear this time because I wrote it down. What ideas, beliefs, and knowledge do you feel most called to share with the world? So that's what I ask my clients. And I would encourage you, if you're like, I don't know what my core message is. Like, I would encourage you to journal about that or use the Otter voice recording app and ramble about it. And better yet, also, if you have a business bestie that you talk to all the time, be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what my core message is. Can I just like riff to you some of these things? I feel like that's how, I don't know. I feel like this about writing sometimes, maybe you agree. And like the other things you have to get in graphic design too. You have to like get all the things out and it's not all good. But the answer is after those things. You can't like skip that. You can't be like, well, I can't do garbage first. Like, you have to do garbage first. And then the answer is after. So if you kind of get out some of your thoughts about like, what are the ideas, beliefs, and knowledge that I feel called to share with the world?
And I think sometimes it comes in stories, right? So sometimes you sit there and you like, there's a story behind how you started. And like, you have to really like hash out the details of that story before you figure out what that message is. Like, what is that? Like, and sometimes a story might just come in like a little spurt. Like, for example, like I might just write down like one thing, like one mental image that I have, and I'm like, I don't know what this is yet, but like write down the spurt, and then like you go back to it and you figure out, oh, like that's what the core of this story is. So I think it comes out in all different ways for all different people, and I love that. And I love that for the verbal processors, like getting it out, with a friend, or getting it out on their notes app or something like that. So really like thinking about like, okay, how do I process things, and then like asking yourself those questions in the way that you process.
I just had a thought.
Sorry.
No, I'm like holding on to this, like, oh, I'm going to say this thing. But another way I would think about it is, what are those topics that when someone brings it up, that you're like, have a million things to say about it? Or like, if somebody, it could go like two ways, where you're like, I'm so passionate about interior design, and look at this fabric that's like stain resistant, and this is great for families. And like, you meet someone that's just like, what? And you're like, how do they not get it? How do they not know how important this is? Or on the flip side, you meet someone, you're like, oh my goodness, look at this fabric that's stain resistant. This is so great for families. And they're like, yes. And this other thing. And then you meet that person that does vibe with that and like you could just talk about it for hours, like what are those topics that you're like, I could go on and on about this, and people that don't appreciate it, I don't get them. Like that's there's something there that you want to uncover.
Yeah. So what is it that you could talk about without like any preparation, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a thought too, but I can't bring it back. So that's okay. All right. So let's just talk about, like, just to kind of put this on a bow, like, let's talk about cohesion and just like the importance of it again with like your visuals and your messaging and like how you sort of help people to like weave that all together.
Yeah. Well, talking about the importance of it, what it comes down to for me is, or in my opinion, what I'm saying is memorability and trustworthiness. So Jamie Chapman's a great example of this, because when you see her shade of purple, I just always know, like, I think she could make a totally different graphic, but it has that shade of purple and I would just know that it was hers. So that's like the memorability thing. When someone sees your post, and you too, Emily, with like this like reddish color and some pinks and stuff, like whenever I see that, I know it's yours. So that is something. What?
No, I was just gonna say, it's why Jamie knew, like, she sees a shirt with a dandelion on it and she's like, oh, Emily needs to have that shirt.
Yeah.
So it's exactly that kind of thing. Like, you want people to see something out in the world and be like, oh, this made me think of you, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. That's such, it's this like subconscious thing that is such an untapped resource of that consistency just simply helps people remember you and think of you. And then the other part of that is the trustworthiness that and this is not something, again, it's subconscious. I'm not like, I can trust Emily or I can't trust Emily, but if you were posting with like a different color or a different, like your live and learns and your podcasts and like the things that you host they follow the same format. So when it's a live and learn, the graphic looks the same every time. And that that helps with the trustworthiness, that it's just like, it's not something that people think through, but they know it's the same thing. So they know it's reliable. Where if you had a different graphic every time you had a live, like completely different, we would be like, in the back of our minds, and again, not in the front of our minds, like we'd be like, is this a thing she does all the time? Maybe she's just figuring it out, or like she's new to this and she doesn't know what she's doing yet.
Yeah. And one other piece of that that I want to touch on, which I think you will totally agree with, is that, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
This is the second time, so I don't have it anymore. But it was about cohesion and why
I'm glad it's not just me. Maybe I'm rubbing off on you though.
It's a full moon, I think, and so maybe we're
yeah, totally.
I don't know. But when it comes back, I'll put it in the comments. But let's talk about like the strategy, the design and messaging audit, and like how people can actually get their hands on this. If it comes back, I'm going to say it. Because
yes. Yeah, feel free to just like think while I'm talking. So the design and messaging audit is about like an hour and a half one-on-one call with me. So I set up a special link just for people watching this live, authenticvisionmedia.com/SBT for She Built This, of course. So you can go there and you can see your discount code to get $30 off of your audit. So how it works is, you can just pick your day that you want your audit, schedule it, and then you'll get a form sent to you for your pre-work, some of the questions that I talked about earlier. So you can work through some of that. And then I get some background on your business and you get some time to think about your business. And then we sit on the call and we go over, what is your core message? Is it coming through in your visuals, and then action steps? And you get like a note, a Google Doc from me of notes of action items that you can take based on our call. So,
okay, I got it. So I was also thinking, when it comes to consistency, Like, it's also about consistency of like, does your brand actually even reflect who you are and what it's like to work with you? So for example, like the She Built This colors are very like reflective of like what the vibe of the brand is. And same with my colors, like it's very much like reflective of my personality and the way that I show up in my copy and those kinds of things. Like I want those things to reflect so that when people get on a Zoom call with me, it's not like, wait, that was not the person I saw on Instagram. So talking about like consistency just being like a really, really big picture, like it is truly about being authentic, which I'm sure you can appreciate the word, from your visuals to your copy to like how you present yourself in your messaging. So I know that there are a lot of people who've done the messaging and design audit. So I'd love when this, when they watch the replay, I'd love for you to like put your comments and praise and accolades for Leanne in there, because I know a lot of you got a lot of clarity in doing that. And I guess that's it. But so make sure you put the link in the comments.
Yeah.
And any final words or like last soapbox you want to stand up?
I guess I have it said pretty well, I think, on my website that when your marketing graphics are distinctive, unambiguous, and tailored to your message, you can communicate your ideas in a way that is lasting and contagious. And I think that's like my people have a message that they want to really get out there, not just to a couple people, but they want to really make ripples in the world. So having that consistency is a big part of doing that. So thanks for watching.
Thank you. Oops.